friends, it's Heather Baxter here with HB Ministries. HB is for the holy and the broken. My desire is always to inspire success in every season of our lives while building the faith. So in this session, in this series, I am providing you with 7 heroes. 7 heroes that are going to teach us a lesson. In my run book, which you can go ahead and find on my website, I'll post my website right here. You can find in the run book 7 different heroes that are running their race with determination, no matter how hard the mile. And so in today's lesson and in all of the other heroes that you have heard previously, I am trying to encourage you to keep running. Even if you feel like you're at a place in life where you're crawling, maybe you're just kind of strolling along with no focus, or maybe you're on the side of the racetrack and you're pretty much out of the race because you're just in so much despair. Well, I'm praying that I can give you a fresh word today, sisters, that's going to inspire you to just pick up that faith pulse a little bit to get yourself back in the race and get yourself moving toward the destiny that God has designed for you. So in today's lesson, we're going to take a look at hero number 5, and her name is Anita Harless. Anita was a close friend of mine back when I was, when I crossed over the line of faith, my very first church home. I met Anita, and she was always an encouragement to me. She loved running, physical running, and she had such an ambition. There was just something about her. And when I got to know Anita, even more through women's ministry, also got to know Anita's story. And when you begin to watch somebody and their passion and their drive, a lot of times it comes from a story, something that has previously happened in their life. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share a little bit of Anita's story because she is hero number 5. And I want to share some bits and pieces. She is in the run book under session 3. And in that session, again, I am encouraging you to run in such a way that you win in this life. Because if the enemy can get you to fall out of your race to a place that you lose your pulse, and you have no interest in keeping up a pace, then he wins. He destroys our destiny because of that hard mile that we came across in our life. Anita will tell you in her story that she didn't stand a chance. The odds were totally stacked up against her. Watched her father die of addiction at the age of 11, and then she lost her mom to addiction at the age of 18. Anita knew what the devil looked like at a very young age. I want to repeat that again. She knew what the devil looked like at a very young age. That is something we need to recognize in today's world. And if the enemy can keep our aim on the brokenness, keep us depressed and down and full of anxiety and fear, then he wins. But God has called us out. He has called us to keep racing, to keep running, because he has a destiny. I love a phrase that Anita has in the run book, and she said, life feels like it's falling apart. It's really crumbling in place. I love that phrase she uses. And I have to kind of stop right there and say, how did she get to that place to be able to say, well, gosh, my life is falling apart, but it is crumbling in place? Because how many people could step back off the racetrack and really look and say, okay, my life is falling apart, but is it crumbling in place? What happens? What do we need to recognize? What do we need to understand so we never quit in that period of time? The first thing that Anita will tell you is there's 2 passions that kept her running her race in such a way that she wins. And the first is her God. She never, ever, ever doubted God had a plan for her life in the midst of losing both parents at a very young age. The second is she never lost her passion for physical running. Man, she poured some tears out, and she'll tell us in her write-up that she poured so many tears out during her runs. Running helped her conquer what she was about to face. Running helped her put everything in perspective. It helped her gather all of her pieces that seemed to be scattered all over the pavement. I want to personally thank you for sharing and contributing your story, your testimony, your test in life, and how God has brought you through in such a powerful way. One of the key things that Anita also stated in her story was that many days she needed a voice bigger than her own. Let's just stop for a second and let's ask ourselves this personal question. What hard mile are we in this current moment, that we need a voice louder than our own, louder than the voices that are around us? You know, I was thinking this morning on my own personal run that we all hear voices. Every single one of us hear voices. And sometimes these voices are discouraging. When we look in the mirror, we hear voices. When we're in our relationships, we hear voices. We hear voices about our finances. We hear voices about our dreams. We hear voices about the opportunity that's getting ready to present itself in our life. We hear voices during the season or the window that we're in right now. We always are hearing voices. The key is what voice are you listening to? I am so thankful that when I was struggling through some of the hardest miles in my life, God brought people in my life to point me even stronger to the voice of truth, because it just wasn't my thing. I will be honest. In the early days of my life, when I was having marriage struggle, when I was privately dealing with the shame and the guilt in my life, I was not listening to the voice of truth. That is one thing that I loved that Anita said in her story, was that she needed a voice bigger than her own. We all need a voice during that hard mile, bigger than our own. And so she points us to her voice of truth, her nugget, her arrow, if I may. If I can shoot an arrow of hope towards your way, the one thing that Anita said that she held on to was Jeremiah 33:3. And that verse says, "Call unto me and seek me, and I will show you great and mighty things, things which you do not know." Let's just think about that for a second, and I'm going to give you time. Here's the verse right here. Write this down in your journal somewhere. That's really what this session is about. All 7 of these heroes, I'm trying to push you toward a nugget of truth that these heroes are giving us in their write-up. How did they stay running that hard mile? Take time and write this verse out and really ponder it. I will also be leaving questions for you to think about that revolve around this verse at the very end of Anita's lesson. And what you can do at that time is just go ahead and think, what mile am I in right now? What voices am I hearing? How can I aim toward the voice of truth? What type of things do I need to change? What lane do I need to switch over? You know, I often think of a track, and I love going to the high school track, and you'll notice that there's 8 lanes at the high school track. And sometimes we need to just switch up the lanes. Maybe we're in this lane and we're not getting out of it, and we're constantly running it and constantly running. Maybe God's voice is telling you to get over to the next lane. Make some changes in your life. Cut some people off in your life. What lane does he want you to switch to so you can better hear the voice of truth? Adjustments need to be made in our run. That's what the run book is all about. It teaches you to run in such a way so you win. How can you believe and behold and become all God's created you to be in the midst of a broken world, in the midst of broken circumstances in your life? There'll be times when you're on the mountaintop, but listen, you don't stay on the mountaintop long. You go back down, because we learn the best in our valleys. When we're broken in our valleys, that's when the Word of God just comes in and he just penetrates our heart to a place that we're ready to pour back out. I love that Anita's encouraging us to seek God in the midst of our hardest mile. And she's also giving us a promise. The promise is that he will show you great and mighty things. But it's on a condition of where and how is our heart seeking. So I'm going to leave you with the word run, R-U-N. And I want you to think of the letter R. Are you recognizing right now that you're broken? Recognizing that there's a broken situation in your life? And if there's not right now, is God allowing you to run past this today to encourage somebody else to recognize the brokenness in their life? So the first is recognizing, but the second is you. And that is understanding. In the midst of that mile, we have a choice. And that choice is, what voice are we going to listen to? God's created us to be holy and set apart. He's created us to be warriors. That is only determined by the voice that we listen to. And in this world, we are crowded by the voice of the flesh. Voices that are going to steer us in the wrong direction, running in the opposite direction. So sit today and ask yourself, What am I aiming for? How am I running in that direction? Understand what voice you are listening to. And letter N is never quit. And Anita tells us that toward the end of her story. Never quit. Sometimes we will beat up our bodies and make them our slaves as we begin to understand the truth that God has. Because the enemy is just warring us back and forth. He'll battle with our emotions. He will battle with us physically. But I'm here to say you can run. God's created you to be a runner. He teaches us all about the word run in 1 Corinthians. He tells us to run in such a way that we will win. He teaches us through Paul that we can run in such a way and we can win. And I love what Habakkuk says. Write your visions down clearly. Write down what you want to see. Write down your aim. Write down how you are going to listen to the voice of truth. And then you run and you do not give up. Though it may tarry, you keep running because in the end, it will speak. And that goes right along with Anita's verse, Jeremiah 33:3. In the end, he will show you great and mighty things. Thank you, Anita, for sharing your story on addiction, sharing what it looked like growing up in your household, because there are many, many others out there that are coming across this video today that you may be in those crumbling places. I want you to know now that you can run in the right direction, that God's voice will bring you out. God's voice will lift you up and you will be running and you will run in such a way that you can win. Pray you are growing through these lessons. Go ahead and take a look back at the previous 4 heroes. They all have a lesson. They all have a nugget of truth for us that we can gain and we can become better runners in the faith. So thank you again for joining HB Ministries. It's all about the holy and broken. And we are all holy and we are all broken. And we just are here to encourage each other in the seasons of life. So blessings, and I will see you guys for hero number 6.